It has been a long time since I have expressed myself in English upon my researches, and I will try to explain to you in a few words where I have been now, where I am, what I have reached, what are my conclusions. And I remind you that I have already published some videos in English um, on our YouTube network, Subconscious. Um, so I am Jacques Halbronn, and I represent a special trend, a special line of astrology in France, in the French-speaking astrologers. My astrology is based on three planets only: Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. And I don't use any sort of natal chart whatsoever. And what I want is just to determine the group, the planetary group to which some person belongs. Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, which are the most expressing planets in the solar system from an astronomical point of view, because there are planets which are too rapid, like Sun and Moon and Mercury and Venus, or too slow, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And in the middle, you have the group which I am interested in, that is Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, which correspond to very, very different times of revolution, since Mars crosses zodiac, the 12 signs of the zodiac, in less than 2 years, while Saturn needs more than 28 years, is 14 times more. And in the middle, we have Jupiter with 12 years, which is a sort of intermediary entity between Mars and Saturn. Besides, moreover, I'm using 4 fixed stars, which are called the royal stars in the tradition. That is Aldebaran, Antares, Regulus, and Fomalhaut. And when one of the 3 planets, well, one of the planets is in conjunction with one of these stars, it is weak. And when it's distant from both stars, it is strong, to see things blankly, simply. So, if you are a Jupiterian, you will depend on the fact that Jupiter is weak or strong, and the same with Saturn. When Jupiter is strong, the values, the energies of Jupiter are strong. And when Saturn is strong, it is the same with Saturn, its values. So the game is rather simple. Sometimes Jupiter and Saturn are both strong at the same time. Sometimes they are both weak at the same time. Sometimes one is more strong, one is weak. But since Jupiter and Saturn do not have the same revolution, it brings all sorts of variations in the connection between the two. So, about Mars, Mars has a very, very quick cycle, and that means that it has a relationship to the space and time very narrow, I would say, and the opposite of Saturn, which has a very much larger focus in terms of space and time. So it's easy to define and to detect who is Jupiter, who is Saturn, who is Mars among the people we meet. Those people who are Martian or even Jupiterian uh, have a rather limited space and time relationship by opposition to Saturn, who has a larger connection with space and time. And that gives very different psychologies and mentalities and characters, temperaments, if you prefer. A Martian or Jupiterian Martian person will live day by day in a certain way. And there will be all sorts of small events every day. And the astrologer, who has this mentality of Mars, Jupiter, will try to develop an astrology which will cover this day by day, hour by hour preoccupation and concern. And the opposite, the astrologer whose mind is more Saturnian will look at things on a much larger scale, and it will not so much be concerned by everyday situations. So that is more or less the new astrology we have in France. I mean, that which was born in France. And actually, it is connected with the work of Michel Gauquelin, another French astrologer, if we can call him astrologer. Maybe I'm not an astrologer, it depends on the definitions. And in 1955, Gauquelin published his first book, Les Influences des Astres, where he presents these three planets only, Mars, Jupiter, etc. It's only afterwards that he will have to add Moon and Venus. And I'm not too pleased about these additions. I think it's improper. If we relate my own work to French school of astrology, we can mention Jean-Pierre Nicolas, who in the 60s published work connected with the structure of the solar system, and he divides the solar system in three groups. One is Sun, Mercury, and Venus. Another is Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and the third is Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. And you can see my group of reference is the middle one, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. As to André Barbeau, he doesn't separate those planets, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, from the others, and he doesn't consider Mars actually at all in his modern astrology, his model. This is quite regrettable for us. Although we can understand that for him, Mars was too quick to be considered. Well, So this astrology is a very useful tool to understand social and political problems and their evolution. But it also reminds us that we depend on cosmic clocks, as Gauquelin mentioned that in his work. If we have a special relationship to time, and if we differ one from the other about time, it is probably because we depend on different clocks. So this is the way I think astropsychology should work, our relation to space and time. And we should abandon the zodiacal descriptions or even the planetary descriptions and concentrate on these three planets. And for Gauquelin, actually, he proved that Saturn was the planet of the learned people, the scientists, that while Jupiter was the planet of the people who represent, who have a sort of public life, and Mars, the planet of people who work in a very strong tension, like people who practice sport at a higher level, highest level. So, as you can see, if you add Gauquelin and Nicolas, we have as a result my own work, if in a certain way, And this is an astrology which we can call Saturnian, because I'm not very much interested, as I said at the beginning, by the natal chart or any sort of chart. And I'm not interested by mixing all sorts of planets, and I keep only these three planets, this trio, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. And I don't pretend to explain the individuality like Rudyard wanted to do. Rudyard was born in France, actually, under the name of Daniel Chenevière, and who wrote most of his work in English, actually, unless, well, I suppose, unless it was translated and remained and published in French. I don't know. But it has been translated from English to French later on, of course, in the 70s, etc. So, I do not believe in the natal chart, and I'm not interested by people who have, I think, I'm not interested by an astrology which is be too narrow-minded in a way, see. But on the other hand, I have a political structure of all this. The Martian people are the people, I mean the folk, the basis of the society, large basis. And Saturn, on the contrary, represents the elite, the monarchy, the people who have a special connection with science and religion, because religion and science for me are connected with a sort of research or truth. And in the middle you have Jupiter, who represents the people, who depends on the people, and at the same time was a guide for the people. So I don't want to insist any longer about my research and results, and I just wanted to tell you where we were in France, at least in Paris, about astrology, while my former astrology is, of course, for the time being, very, very marginal, of course, but I believe it has a very good future.